Hello, everyone. My name is John, and today I want to share a story from my life. It's a story I'd likely prefer to bury forever, but sometimes the truth needs to be told, not for absolution, but as a warning to others. Life isn't always straightforward. There are moments when we stand at the edge, swayed by temptations we don't fully recognize as dangerous. The story I'm about to tell isn't one of heroism, but of a man who stumbled in his marriage, facing desires I believed I could resist. This is my story, my confession, and above all, a hard lesson in honesty and self-control. My name is John. I'm 27 years old, born and raised in a small town in America. My family was never wealthy. My parents worked hard to make ends meet amid difficult circumstances. I completed high school but left soon after to work and support my family. From a young age, I understood my options were limited, and college would be out of reach. I don't blame anyone for this. My circumstances taught me that it's my responsibility to stand by my family. After leaving school, I found a job at a small garage in town. At first, I was just an assistant, running errands, cleaning up, and helping the lead mechanic. Over time, I learned basic skills like oil changes, tire checks, then engine repairs, brakes, and electrical systems. The work was hard, but it helped me mature and slowly improve my skills. Though the pay was modest, it was enough for me to help my family. I took pride in being able to solve tough issues on cars independently, earning the trust of my clients. That garage was more than just a job. It was a place where I grew, learned, and built my career with my own hands. Each day, facing new challenges, I felt I was on the right path. In early 2013, when I was 27, I married Olivia, my beautiful and talented wife. She's a lawyer, a year younger than me, smart and charming. We met through a mutual friend, and from our first meeting, I was drawn to Olivia's confidence and resilience. At first, we were just friends, but over time, through meetings and dates, our feelings blossomed. Olivia had a deep understanding of life, and every time I was with her, I felt understood and supported. Though we came from different worlds, she from a well-off family, and I from a humble background, this never posed a barrier. We always respected and understood these differences. Throughout our courtship, Olivia supported me in my work and life. She was more than just my love, she was my companion, always listening and sharing. We faced challenges together, and this connection helped me realize Olivia was the woman I wanted by my side for life. After some time, I knew I had found my true partner, and we decided to get married. Olivia's family was very wealthy, completely different from my own modest circumstances. Her parents, successful business people, had always hoped their daughter would marry someone from a similar background. I knew they had their doubts about me from the beginning, but Olivia fought for us. Her love gave me comfort, though I was a bit self-conscious about the differences between our families. After the wedding, since my family couldn't afford it, I agreed to live with her family. At first, I was uneasy, fearing that living with my in-laws would bring its own pressures, but Olivia always reassured me. She said that as long as we loved and respected each other, things would be all right. So I agreed, and we began our married life in their large home. However, the differences between our families created challenges I hadn't anticipated. I tried to play my role as a husband, yet I often felt lost in a house that felt foreign and wasn't truly mine. In the early days of our marriage, our life was genuinely happy. Olivia was a caring and intuitive wife, who always knew how to make me feel loved and respected. For the first few months, everything was smooth. We often spent evenings together, sharing dinner and talking about work and life. Though I was only the son-in-law, Olivia's care made me feel things weren't as hard as I'd feared. However, that period didn't last long. Olivia was a good lawyer, and her work became more demanding. Her firm frequently sent her on business trips, sometimes for days, sometimes for a week. The evenings in that big house became emptier without her laughter or our warm conversations. Olivia's parents were also often away, busy with their business, leaving the house even quieter. And so it was just me and Olivia's younger sister, Lily, a young, beautiful, and spirited woman. Though I initially saw her as nothing more than a sister-in-law, over time, I became aware of her watching eyes. She was often close, sometimes asking about my life or Olivia. Her questions seemed innocent, but they made me uncomfortable because I sensed something hidden behind them. Every night when Olivia was away, I felt a profound loneliness. The vast house grew cold, every small sound echoing, reminding me how lost I felt. Sometimes I'd sit on the couch, staring into space, wondering where our marriage was heading as Olivia's work claimed more of her time. I loved her, but the loneliness was eating away at me, and in those vulnerable moments, Lily's presence became increasingly noticeable, making it harder to resist her subtle advances. She began to appear more frequently, dressed in provocative clothes, as if trying to draw my attention. At first, I told myself it was just coincidence, but after numerous occasions, I started to realize it was intentional. I tried to ignore it, convincing myself that I shouldn't think anything inappropriate, but the emptiness and isolation kept growing, and I knew I was standing on a precarious edge where one wrong step would change everything forever. From the first days I entered this house, I noticed Olivia's younger sister, a striking girl with sharp eyes. Though she never said it, I could feel her gaze on me each time I moved around the house. At first, I paid no attention. To me, she was just my sister-in-law, someone I regarded as family. I knew I was tall and well-built, which probably caught her eye, but I never let the thought linger. In the early months, everything was normal. I spent most of my time at the garage, came home late, and saw her only occasionally during meals or when she was tidying up. But when Olivia's trips became more frequent, things gradually changed. The longer Olivia was away, the more I felt Lily's presence. It wasn't just because we were in the same house, it was because her behavior seemed to shift. She no longer kept her distance. Every time we were alone, I noticed her choice of thin and revealing clothing. At first, I tried to tell myself it was her personal style, nothing unusual, but eventually, the pattern became too obvious to ignore. She'd appear in thin tank tops, or nightgowns that barely covered her. Each time she passed by, her eyes seemed to linger, challenging me, as if daring me to react. At the time, I tried to remain composed, reminding myself she was just my sister-in-law, and that Olivia was still the one I loved. But deep down, I couldn't deny that her presence, and her sensuality, were starting to shake me. I knew I shouldn't think about her, shouldn't let anything happen, but her presence, especially when Olivia was away, was like an ever-growing temptation, making it impossible not to notice every move, every meaningful glance. The internal battle between reason and desire, between loyalty to Olivia and my weakness in the face of temptation, became increasingly intense. I knew I was standing on a dangerous threshold, where one wrong step would bring everything crashing down. One evening in July of 2013, things spiraled out of control faster than I could have ever imagined. It was an ordinary day, but looking back, it was the moment my life took a darker turn. Olivia was on a business trip as usual, and I had grown used to being home alone. Her parents weren't around either, so it was just Lily and me in the large, quiet house. We had dinner together with nothing out of the ordinary, just casual conversation about work and a few harmless remarks, but an odd tension was simmering within me, a hidden feeling I was trying to ignore. After dinner, I went to the bathroom to unwind, thinking a cold shower might help clear my mind. I closed the bathroom door, exhausted from a long day, and forgot to lock it. All I thought about was getting under the water, unaware of anything else. I took off my clothes, ready to let the water wash over me, hoping it would calm my chaotic thoughts. Suddenly, I heard the door open. I turned, and the scene before me made my heart stop. My sister-in-law, bare and bold, had entered the bathroom as if it had all been carefully planned. The bathroom light reflected off her pale skin, outlining every feature in stark detail. She looked straight at me, her eyes full of courage and provocation, without a hint of hesitation or embarrassment. I stammered, feeling my entire body tense. What are you doing?" I asked, my voice shaky, grasping for the last shred of reason in this absurd situation. She didn't answer right away, stepping closer, her eyes still locked onto me. Then she spoke, her voice soft but laced with suggestion, like an invitation impossible to ignore. "Do you want to know what I taste like?" I stood frozen, not knowing how to react. My mind told me to turn away, to push her out. But my body betrayed me. My eyes were glued to every inch of her form, and with each step she took, I couldn't look away. My heart raced, my breathing quickened, and I knew I was teetering on the edge of an irreversible mistake. "Leave, you can't do this," I tried to say, but my voice was weak, lacking conviction. She moved closer until she was within reach. The light in the bathroom highlighted her, making everything too clear to ignore. I felt myself losing control, caught in a storm of passion and weakness. The bathroom door closed behind her, a final signal pushing me into a point of no return. Though my heart was filled with fear and guilt, I couldn't resist. Guided by the instinct of a man who hadn't seen his wife in too long, I couldn't resist this enticing young woman. I held her, and in that moment, every boundary was erased. We crossed the line too fast, too far, and I knew there was no going back. Afterward, a wave of guilt washed over me, heavy and suffocating like a nightmare I couldn't shake. I stood in the steamy bathroom, my body tense, my mind blank, unable to comprehend what I'd just done. Lily looked at me with gleaming eyes, a satisfied smile on her face. To her, it seemed like a playful game, a small victory in her heart, but to me, it was a betrayal. I had betrayed Olivia, my wife, who loved and trusted me. I had betrayed the very values I always believed in. My heart was full of regret and self-loathing, but it had all gone too far to undo. I quietly left the bathroom, not daring to look Lily in the eyes. The house was cold and quiet, only the echo of my footsteps in the long hallway. I quickly returned to my room and dressed, but the guilt remained, gnawing at me. When Olivia and her parents returned after a long day, I tried to act normal, as if nothing had happened. We had dinner together, talked about work, and everything seemed calm on the surface, but inside, a wave of guilt and regret grew, threatening to consume me. Lily, however, was unchanged. She remained just as she always had, without a hint of embarrassment or guilt. Instead, she seemed more satisfied and confident than before. She laughed and talked with Olivia and her parents as if nothing had happened between us. Sometimes, she'd throw me a quick glance, enough to remind me of everything, making my heart heavier with each passing minute. Every night, lying beside Olivia, I couldn't sleep. I lay there, restless, staring at the ceiling, the images of what had happened replaying in my mind. I wanted to confess, to tell Olivia everything, but the fear was overwhelming. I knew that if I spoke, everything would crumble, this marriage would end, and I'd lose everything. So we remained silent, both me and my sister-in-law. Each passing day felt like a weight, and the guilt grew like a wound that refused to heal. I felt like I was living in a false shell, still the devoted husband and son-in-law on the outside, but inside, a traitor filled with guilt and self-hatred. I don't know how long I can bear this feeling, but I know things will never be the same again. The guilt eats away at me, making it impossible to look myself in the mirror. I want to share a sincere message with everyone, especially those who have faced or are facing temptations in life. Temptations often come unexpectedly, appearing when you least expect them, usually at moments when you're vulnerable, lonely, or off balance. These temptations can drag you into a spiral, hard to escape, making you lose control in a fleeting moment. The most important thing is to stay calm and collected when facing temptation. You must understand that a single misstep not only affects the present but carries long-term consequences that can destroy the most precious things in your life: your family, love, and self-respect. I've been there, and I know that guilt and regret aren't easily shaken off. Remember, self-control isn't just a responsibility to others, but to yourself. Don't let a moment of weakness pull you into situations that will haunt you for the rest of your life. The worth of a person lies in their ability to distinguish right from wrong and to know when to stop before something breaks. Never trade your family's happiness and self-respect for a fleeting mistake, because once you cross that line, there's no going back. If I could turn back time, I would choose to control myself better, to avoid living in agony and regret as I do now. Don't let yourselves face this pain like I have.